Are we designed to understand this world or just be in it? Is the world designed to understand us? You know, in life, the human being finds itself identifying with something as a point and moving in the system of many points. It's like life is a line, and every dot of that line is the self of each moment. When I think about if we are designed as creatures to understand this world, or to just be in it, when I first look at it, are we designed to understand it? I see that we're not even designed to look at it from a third person point of view. We're designed to look at it from the first person. The eyes are not above our heads so we can see ourselves like a third player video game. You know, we see ourselves first person. So it seems that we are designed not to understand this whole world, but to understand a certain phase, certain position. We're designed with a certain reach, as if the creature has an arm with a certain height, you know? And when I think about it, are we just here to be in it? Because usually the materialistic perspective is like that. That's why hedonism is a justification. That's why nihilism and solipsism is on the rise. You know, those people who do extreme things, they are in some sense solipsist, you know? And those people who don't do extreme things are nihilists. One side is seeing that they are empty, they are not part of the equation, and the other part sees that they are the whole equation. You know, now here's the unique thing. When we look at the human anatomy, when we look at the human hand, we find a sort of strange, as if when I was young, one of the big questions in my mind was, why is an apple palm sized? Why is an apple designed in a way where we can hold it in our hand? You know, and in some sense, it's not because of the apple, because you can perceive different lenses to causes of why something is the way it is, you know. But it's just that the uniqueness where I felt human beings are also kind of like a puzzle piece. They're not here to, we are perhaps not here to comprehend the whole puzzle, but we're here to be a piece. Because literally, like how the apple fits in the hand of the person, it's like how the puzzle piece fits into the other puzzle piece. Now the self, the puzzle piece of the self, is this isn't okay. I thought this was on mute. The self is like a puzzle piece, and the world is like a puzzle piece, and when they are together they become full. So it's as if it's like a dance of existence and experience, where our existence requires an attention as the world moving, and our experience requires an attention as a self noticing itself separate from the world. So it's as if two dimensions of speed. So I would say as if like existence is happening at 10 miles an hour and experience is happening at 50 miles per hour, you know. I feel we are experiencing, I feel the human being is experiencing life faster than life is existing to it. What does that mean? The only way that could be possible is if there is another existence. That means when somebody doesn't know the variables, but then they continue on, they have seen another picture. And so the question of the title were, are we designed to understand this world? And before saying or just be in it, I had also written, or is the world designed to understand us? Now, if the world is designed to understand us, we got to stop trying to understand it. What that means is it's as if we are like the steering wheel and the world is like the one driving it. But right now we think we are the world and the steering wheel is like outside. We feel we're using the world to exist to ourselves. But what if the world is using what if the world is using us to exist to itself, you know? Because in this life, there is strangely in nature, there is a kind of karmic fairness, you know? And I don't know if it's fairness or things that are just have no jurisdiction. Sometimes I felt like certain beings, their egos may be wild, but they have no karmic jurisdiction. And some people do. Some people have karmic jurisdiction because it's like their time. What that means is you might suddenly see a bad person win. And you might be like, what the fuck? Why did this bad person win? You know? And then you'll see that regardless of all the good forces joining against the bad person, it was as if history had chosen some events. I'm telling you, some people, it's as if they are chosen by the moment, you know, by the continuity of the design of the moment. You know what that means? That means literally you're like someone walking by the beach, then you see a turtle come by with some plastic on its neck or something. Do you know that moment is literally like there is no meaning. It's like, what's the meaning of a plastic on a turtle's neck? It's like the only meaning is action oriented. You just go and take the plastic off. You know, certain moments we're required as a design component, as a design element. You know, that means if you strip away morality, if you strip away the right and wrong, it's just like design, massive levels of design, like multidimensional levels of design, you know? When I say we're a designer species, I'm not saying that lightly. I mean, literally everything we are considering to be knowledge was that which came in the range of conscious design. We were conscious of it. We're like, oh, it looks that way. Let's call it something, you know? And so that was how knowledge kind of began, you know? This was the beginning of knowledge. A bunch of people saw something they couldn't understand, and they're like, "Yo, should we name this mystery?" And that's how it began. You know, we named our vision. Blessings, guys. Welcome. Thank you for the kind comments in the chat section. Somebody says drink some tea. I got coffee here. You know. Coffee is for some people it is their morning guru. Sometimes I drink coffee, guys. I go straight into Satchidan. So this is a very I mean, let us just take in this notion. Imagine this question. Are we designed to understand this world, or is this world designed to understand us? Right? Now, let's say we don't know an answer to this question. The question is too mysterious, too vast, too many variables, but we can at least visualize if there was some answer to it, what would it imply? That means sometimes I think about how I have a problem in my life. Sometimes I think about what kind of eyes would I have if the problem didn't exist for me. Do you know what I mean? That means like you're in a bad relationship, and then it's just like the person midway in the relationship is wondering who would I be if I wasn't around this person. Do you know? And so when you think about the aftermath or the after problem, so Quines, thank you. Yeah, guys, I'm sorry. Sometimes I I have a smoking habit, so I smoke and talk, and but excuse the extra noises, guys. Just focus on the concepts. So Oh, wait, in the chat section, Charles says, what if dialogue is the way? Dialogue is definitely the way for our inner realms, but the outer realms cannot just be dialogue. They have to sometimes be action in accordance to nature, you know. But anyways, and there is a huge component of language. I'll get into this too. Guys, pretty much the difference between if we're designed to understand it, I said it, we visualize the problem ahead and we visualize as if we had an answer to the problem, what would the outcome be? Right? So that means if when there's a problem, you see the problem, but you don't see the answer. Now your mind can again jump ahead and try to wonder about an answer, and then wonder about if you had an answer and that answer was correct, what would the implication of it be? You know, the mind gives an ability to run through thoughts when you realize you're not a thought and they're just the content of your attention. So I would say if we gave an answer that yes, let's say somebody shouted at the sky back in the day, are we designed to understand this world? Or is this world designed to understand us? And then imagine a voice came from the sky. You know, and the voice was like, yes, the first one, you're designed you're designed to understand this world. We see if we give a yes to this idea, if we are designed to understand this world, we notice that a part of our design is free will. So technically, we are designed to design our understanding of the world. That's what the implication, if we are designed for the world, what it would mean. It would mean that the world is like our vehicle and we're the driver. Now, is the world designed to understand us? Now, if we gave a yes to that question, which would be no to the other one, to the other side, is the world designed to understand us? It could imply that a human being's purpose in life is never comprehensible to it. If the world is designed to understand us, we are pretty much, there is no purpose we can understand. We're limited to the purpose of our inner realms. The outer realms' purpose will be unknown. That means pretty much the world is here for man, or man is here for the world. When I was younger, I felt the world was here for me. I felt the world was like an all-you-can-eat buffet, you know? But now I see that it's not per se an all-you-can-eat buffet. It's just the system that has done what it can so far. You know? A lot of things in life, there is no per se an ideological meaning sometimes. It's like when you hug someone, what does that mean? What is the meaning of hugging, you know? Like, what does that mean? It's like, am I hugging consciousness right now? Okay, so Charles in the chat section says, what if attention is a mode of energy like the unconscious? So, Charles, I would tell you here, as a response to your comment in the chat section, here's the thing. Attention isn't a mode of energy. Your attention is in this existential room before what's in it. Your attention is energy. What in your attention moves, or how your attention moves, can change its form. This is so true in the inner realms. In the inner realms, you can close your eyes and imagine yourself walking in the park. Then you can instantly imagine yourself walking at the edge of a building. Then you can instantly imagine yourself walking on Saturn's ring. You can imagine yourself suddenly walking in the void. Do you see what I mean? The mind has a leaping ability of changing the world's context. So for me, attention really is no longer a conceptual thing. I don't conceptualize my attention. It's just like an experience. That means literally we're here designed to be the wind, but also the leaves that the wind moves. So you see, it's the boundaries of our imposition. If we are designed to understand this world, yeah, man is telling energy what to do. Energy's not telling us what to do, you know. But if but if the world is designed to understand us, that means we may not comprehend. So in one situation, we are like soldiers. In another situation, we're like commanders. If we are designed to understand this world, that means if you actually thought about the causal positioning of the realm, we are saying, in Vedanta at least, let me bring it up from that context, there's the notion of Purusha and Prakriti, which is the whole chicken and the egg idea. Did the chicken come first? Did the egg come first? Did the chicken come first? Did the egg come first? And so what is that is, did consciousness come first? Did matter come first? Did consciousness come first? Sorry, I shouldn't say consciousness. Did awareness come first? Did matter come first? Did awareness come first? Did matter? Because consciousness is when awareness is to a form. You know, when you're younger, the concept of walking alone feels it feels the person dislikes it, doesn't see a value in it. You know, in my youth, I was very shy, but meanwhile, being shy, I could totally see society and civilization happening. It wasn't like a complete blindness to the realism of the social dimensions, but it was a sort of shyness where it was as if I felt I couldn't speak the language of meaning of my moment, you know? And that's the thing. That means if you, when you're younger, if you can get comfortable in this life, it doesn't matter actually what age you are, at any point in this life, if you can realize you were born alone, and to some degree you will die alone, and as Buddha says, it's a ultimate, it's a blessing if you have companions, if you have others. So when you master walking alone, you actually don't, something interesting happens. You don't change. You don't change unconsciously when you consciously are being something. You know, that's the difference. If you're unconsciously being yourself, then somebody could come and say something and it will change. It will change your perspective. But if you're consciously being yourself, that's literally like someone working. When someone works, like when I wake up, for me, I know that just the notion of being a creature, being a human being, being a person who speaks and communicates, it's literally taking energy. So it takes energy to be a human, you know, a human being, a social entity. There's literally an effort-based thing. That means as I'm speaking, I totally understand I can notice the candle wax melting, you know, as the candle flame flickers. So what does that mean? That means there is a sort of exchange between movement and the energy that you start off with. You know, it's strange. the world is acting free, but actually when it comes to a sort of philosophical perspective, it is acting less free. We are, you know what's going on? It's as if we're in a multidimensional reality. And when we are in a multidimensional reality, if we have the arrogance to act like we're in a singular dimension, there would be a lot of phenomena that doesn't make sense. So there could be that sometimes in life when something happens that doesn't make sense to the person, it's actually there are dimensions of activity and energetic occurrence going on that the person doesn't see. I'll give an example. For example, you imagine you're someone who's trying really hard for an award, you know, trying to win some prize at some athletic competition, you know, and then you do your best and you technically should win, then you suddenly see somebody else wins. And then you realize, holy shit, the system was rigged from the beginning. It's like the cousin of the person who owns the thing won or something, you know, so it becomes a situation where it's like you weren't seeing other dimensions where meaning, how in the other ways that meaning moves. You know, that's really the beauty of philosophy. You don't read philosophy to get answers. You read philosophy to see in what ways man has questioned the nature of the realm. That means it's very fascinating, but let me tell you, it's like this. It's like they're siblings. It's like science is, you can say, a younger sibling. Then there is an older sibling and psychology. Then after the older sibling of psychology is philosophy. Then after philosophy, there's in some sense a sort of, you can say, the theologian, you know, the person who's connecting experience and knowledge together. The philosopher is wondering about if experientially the meaning of the world could be something different, but the theologian has accepted it in a certain context, even though that theology can be blind too. Don't get me right. Don't get me wrong. I mean, everything in life everything has a shadow. You know, everything that you see is perfect. The moment you see it's perfect, then you actually notice its imperfections. You know, anytime I've been like, yeah, this is the perfect moment. Right when I have said that, literally, it's as if right when I have said that, the world's like, oh, this moment's perfect. Let me show you the imperfect. You know, and that's why I'm telling you, in your outer realms, live simply. I think minimalists understand this well. And yogis were incredible minimalists. They were so much minimalists, they were trying to renounce whatever that was left of some sort of illusory realm. That means the yogi wanted to wake up from the dream, and you can say the modern programmer is attempting to wake up from the simulation. And that's the thing, you know, when I look at evolution, it's strange. Sometimes I feel man can't be defined by a sequence of events when the whole thing is happening at once. That means even though we have a sort of, you know, we all come from our parents, but at the same time, the design of the human body seems to have taken inspiration from everything. You know, that means I remember as a kid, I did something so silly. I think I was like, what was I, like 11 or something, you know? And my family, like I don't know, like my family was coming up and there was strawberries and there was this really strange strawberry, okay? And I remember I put the strawberry like in my mouth the opposite way so it kind of looked like a tongue. And for a second, the people who entered the room freaked out for like a nanosecond, you know? And then they realized it was like a strawberry. Oh man, I think the reason we have memory is because to have access to endless humor, to our own my own foolishness is my greatest humor. You don't know, because it's so real to me. Oh man, you know there is I don't know how I noticed this, but I think in my inner realms, I entertained a notion of hierarchy, a hierarchy of selves. That means if right now they ask, is the only human being, is only the human being on this planet right now as an intelligence? Is the human being the intelligence, like on this planet, the major intelligence? And I will tell you no. We are there, as Terence McKenna would say. I'm on Terence McKenna's side, where he says there's another tenant in the room. The yogis have said this. Do you know, religion was saying there's another room. Religion was saying do this, and after this you're gonna, like, for me it was like, you see, I understand the intimacy one can have with the relationship of ideas that they have allowed into their emotional sphere. I personally have an emotional sphere. It's the grandest question of them all. Who is this heart beating for? Or what is it beating for? And if there is the potential of another tenant in the room, what could that imply about the dimensions of intelligence? What if the same time, what if, let's say, we are playfully, life is like the yin yang symbol, and right now we're living as individual objects who are wondering if they're subjects, you know? Imagine there's a realm where right now we're a self in a world. Imagine simultaneously there's another parallel dimension where everybody is the world of a self. What that means is right now we may think that our thoughts are our own thoughts, but we don't realize our thoughts are a mirror. They're not a mirror. They're a glass window where there's a glass. You can't literally go past it, but you can see what's through it, And I have this very, I mean, of course, I'm entertaining it as a playful theory, but I feel that um, literally like the caterpillar that is designed to experience two-dimensional kind of movement to some degree, as a three-dimensional being, but two-dimensional mobility, then it goes into metamorphosis and it begins flying. Like, think about that. The caterpillar didn't have wings, then it designed into a creature that has wings, an incredibly fascinating karmic creature, where in its karma it transforms everything. And what happens to the caterpillar is that all this inside the cocoon, the metamorphosis, all the cells of the caterpillar die, right? And then the cells of the butterfly emerge. So I feel this is what's happening, where all the experiences of a self in a world at the end of life, like the caterpillar, will just they will all die. And then there will be a moment where there will be an emergence, the first step as a world in a self, not as a self in the world. So I think this is why it doesn't make sense, because there is two sides to the coin. And when we try to make sense of this whole coin by only defining one side of it, we are always left to the other. And that's why I'm saying there will come an apocalypse for language, strangely. I'm telling you, there will be an inner apocalypse way before there's going to be an outer apocalypse. The Sufi mystics would say that, or even Saint Francis of Assisi, or Francis of Assisi, like that person would say, it is in dying to self that we are born to eternal life. Or as the Sufis would say, to die before you die. So what is dying then? As if there is two types of selves. There is the objective birth, then there is the birth of you as an idea to yourself. And that is what can change. That is where the enlightenment is. Because you can say the person is seeking something based on their alphabet of imagery they perceive. So think of life as every person's psychology. They're creating words, and these words are coming from meaningless letters that are being accepted in certain ways. So the meaning, the systems of our meaning of what is real, it is this layers of acceptance. It's pretty much like we're not seeing the micro battles, and we're like, whoa, how are we here? We're just seeing the overall, the macro. We're not seeing the micro to some degree of the situation. There has been times I have, I find, played with my inner realms. Usually I use my inner realms for work, like for the work of the lifetime. But aside from that, the inner realms can play. It depends on how you choose the animate quality of the life. That means every human being underneath, behind of their eyes. there is a level of unknown, which is where the non-dual is breathing. So we are technically being the moment, then being what's in the moment. you know. So when we reverse engineer through our identity, we come back to being the whole moment. So when you are the whole moment, there is no separation. So here's the thing. I'm going to attempt to answer this question through a model I've designed I call Ring of the Absent Heaven. I'm going to ask this question from 4 different contexts, you can say. Are we designed to understand this world? Let's first go with that question. From the concept of the void, if you were looking at space, no. If you were looking at it from the singular, are we designed to understand this world or just be in it? The singular dimension is to just be in it. There is no duality, there is no people, there is no civilization, there is no meaning, technically, when things are just completely singular. Everything is just like one thing. You know, so all those people who go to oneness, technically, they don't realize true non-duality is everybody when right before they sleep. You know, it's like your mind is very non-dual. It's like duality is how you are projecting it. So technically, it's like the Lotus Sutra, where in the Lotus Sutra they perceive the Buddha suddenly before passing away, transitioning out of this realm. The Buddha was what do you call it? The Buddha suddenly goes into a hysteria, and his disciples are like, "Holy shit! Now, Buddha, now." When you're about to leave the dimension, you're freaking out. And the Buddha and they're like, "What's going on, Buddha?" And the Buddha says, "I have made a mistake. We have all been enlightened from the beginning." And that's the notion. You see, we think we fell from the better. Or we feel there was nothing and now we're going to the better. But I'm telling you, it's after a point, you just put the stories aside and you will watch life. And when you watch life enough, you will find your real eyes. In yoga, they would call this the divine remembrance. You will suddenly notice you are not a stranger to yourself, even though you may be a stranger to this world, as we all are. But to yourself. That self which is no longer a concept. It is what stands as energies roar as consciousness. I want to share with you a chapter from my science fiction. Let me finish the Ring of Absent Heaven. Oh my God. Okay, from a dualistic being, if you were to ask the question, are we designed to understand this world? The answer would be yes. That's the only thing duality has, to try to understand where it is. You know? But then we go to the infinite dimension. And the infinite dimension means there is no dualistic limit. There's endless possibilities. In the infinite dimension, if we can find a way to become the higher dimensions of our lower dimensions, it will be simultaneous. That means right now we're experiencing one side of the coin, but if civilization speeds up and advances, maybe let's give it a projection of 700 years from now, it would be simultaneous. That means we would not think we're alive without noticing we're dead. Do you see, they're codependent concepts. People just zoom in on life and they cry about death, not realizing that you can't understand life without death and you can't understand death without life. Do you know? And so really, there will come a moment in every person's life where they will wonder really what's going on. It's as simple as that. Where you will realize that every voice you have heard has actually been your own mind's processing. When you realize that, then you take the steering wheel of your own life. Then it's not that you idolize free will. It's not that you assume. Here's the thing. I may speak about certain things passionately, but I'm just sharing it as a model. I'm pretty much like, hey, humanity, we could do this, but everybody's doing whatever they want anyway, so it doesn't matter. You know? So the thing is that it's after we notice the cyclical dimensions of engagement with the realm, I think the simultaneity of Purusha and Prakriti, that means that, oh my God. Pretty much the chicken and the egg, they both were simultaneous. It's just that the egg was in another dimension, the chicken was in another dimension. So right now we are thinking that we are going through phases of life, but then we will realize the world is already has divided itself into multiple phases. That means sometimes I feel when human beings fight, the planet feels ashamed of what it has done. I feel we have embarrassed and dishonored the guy in mind. But at the same time, animals are animals. And what do you do in a world of animals? And we're just those animals in nature. Just take this in. We're animals in nature that are speaking to one another. That means if you went back like hundreds of thousands of years ago, it was just violence, just savageness. That means people didn't talk, people didn't communicate, people didn't treat each other as having unknown potentials of mind. That means imagine you're someone who wants to do violence, okay? And imagine you do this violence, then you do this violence to someone on the street, and then suddenly something happens the next day. You go to the hospital, and then you realize the person you were violent to was the doctor that was going to, like, for example, help you. Do you see, you cannot hurt this world without being hurt later by it, because you bring down the potential of the whole thing. That means imagine before Einstein had decided to come and sit down and write the essays of general relativity and super relativity, special relativity in that patent office. Like, imagine he had been like mugged in the street or something. And we would have been like, holy shit, that person's state of mind was so disturbed that he never wrote those 2 essays. So you see, that's the thing about life. Our actions may be insignificant to us, and then we may declare ourselves authorization to do anything. But I'm telling you, it's like everything has a significance. We open our eyes in a game which a percentage, 50% of it we didn't design, and 50% we can only design. That means it's like the birds and the squirrels are not going to build an advanced civilization. It is with human hands that we will open humanity's eyes, really. It's like we don't understand, but there's an incredible building phase that our species has to quickly get through and then start enjoying itself. That means, isn't it strange that we all have this approach where everybody goes to work, they're preparing for their future, and then they relax, But how come we're not doing this on a collective level? On a collective level, we're not thinking like everybody who's planning for their future. On a collective level, we're like, okay, whatever, I don't know. That's modern morality for you. Oh, sure, okay. There are times that the human being can, somebody you think says humble pie, I'll tell you, sometimes you can be humbled by your inner realms and outer realms. Sometimes you get humbled by overwhelmment. That means you just perceive something so beyond your relatability that you watch from a distance. And I can't tell you that everything I know is in a world that's unknown. Everything I have said in this lifetime, everything every human being has said has been occurring in an unknown world. And when we get that picture as a species, we will understand that the point of it is not truth. Truth is not for the eyes of man. Truth is for the future always. The future generations can look back and feel the truth. But we must live for the meaning that is to come. We must live for the directors of the future that will open the eyes of man to what it needs to be open to. Because on some level, I'll tell you, I do see each profession for its own merit. Yeah, let the artist draw whatever it likes. Let the filmmaker make whatever film the filmmaker makes. But on another level, simultaneously, I cannot ignore how there is this 4 billion-year-old science project, and it means we have to incorporate it. That means it's as if like parents should ask their children, where are you? And the child's like, I'm here, you know, I'm here, I'm in the house, you know, and the parents like, no, where are you? And the child's like, okay, I'm in the city. It's like, no, where are you? I'm in this country. No, where are you? I'm on this planet. No, where are you? I'm in this galaxy. No, where are you? I'm in this cosmos. No, where are you? Beyond the language threshold, the emergence of the experiencer, where you realize you are where your next step is. That is the value of free will. It is the hidden dancer. It is the soul's secret techniques. Think of the soul as a martial artist, you know, and as a martial artist that hasn't revealed his super secret techniques. Do you know what I mean? So what that means is the mind is going thinking it's just the mind. Suddenly this martial artist does a technique and it astonishes the whole thing, the whole system. Because we are treating ourselves as a system, you know. That means I thought, what's the best way to build civilization? And I realized I had been looking at it in the mirror. We have to build a civilization that by understanding how to be in it, you're also understanding everything about the medical sciences and the human body. That means I will definitely strive towards this. I don't know how the eyes of whoever may want to join me on this endeavor, but pretty much my notion is that when we realize all knowledge is limited to an unknown variable, we study the unknown variable. And studying an unknown variable is another way of saying exploration. So right now, we are coloring the world in rather than realizing its outline is endless. Because a person can live multiple lives before they even move. That's what probability, the concept of probability, is actually a very advanced event. That means it's like me, how can I tell you, sometimes when I give these talks, the inner realm, there's imagery. So what is this inner realm imagery? It's like a cinematic language. So when a director makes a film, they're not just looking at how every scene has a value to the narrative, but what is being communicated in the scene. What objects are left there that later on in the film, for example, they find relevance, you know? So that's the thing, that there is a internal cinematic language, which what we have literally very ignorantly been, yeah, that's thinking, that's the thinker, yeah, we're thoughts, let's keep living the way we are, you know? It's ridiculous. That means the only way I would accept I am a thought if my thoughts didn't change. But because they change, how can I be them? How can I just be the cells of my body when the cells come and go? That means we are actually a universal mind. Our mind is not individual. You know what that means? That means intelligence is not dual, but its effects are. So you can say a person imagines like skydiving. Let's say you've been to skydiving and you're experiencing skydiving in your inner realms, right? Now, the effect of it, the language we use, the communication would be the effect. So that means no communication is 100% perfect. You know, just like in the transition of a certain force from one state to another, it loses some things in the middle. Right? So I feel that communication is never reality because it's not 100% accurate communication of it, because at best it's just sounds entering the other person's ears. Sometimes I wonder, how are people hearing me? You know? And I realize that it's not for my eyes, it's for theirs. I'm going to share with you, I was bringing some point earlier about roaring in the moment. I want to share a chapter from my science fiction. It's called Lord Carta's Arrival. Let me see if I can find this. I wrote this in 2017. What email was it in? Sorry guys, just hang in there. I'm trying to find. If I can find the thing, it becomes so easier for me to share it. Because I can read it for you. If not, then I gotta remember it verbatim. The chapter was called Lord Carta's Arrival. And Lord Carta is a very unique figure in my science fiction work. It's not here. Okay, whatever, I can't find it, so I gotta share it. So, guys, a quick 2-minute intermission, I'll be back. Okay, guys, so I'm back. Alright, so Lord Carter's Arrival. This is the science fiction tunnel, just a component to the show. Lord Carter, and so my science fiction novel, it's not out yet. It's something. It's a giant book, but pretty much it's set in the year 5025. There's 9 parallel dimensions to Earth. Earth has a government called the Enlightened Society. I've given myself incredible freedom for multidimensional context. There is everything stretching from angels to extraterrestrials to oversouls to beings in parallel dimensions having the same body and whatnot. Like the metaphysics of the book is very. I've given myself a permission to say all the super extreme ideas that I've kind of been keeping on the down low in these talks, like in the science fiction. I've kind of gone all out. That means in my science fiction, the reader will get access to some of the most intense ways I've looked at this life. Anyways, so Lord Carter's Arrival. It's set in the year 5025. The Enlightened Society is a government that's multidimensional. And Lord Carta is a character that the main character of the novel named Rasool, he meets in actually a Sky City Council, this invisible council where, anyways, in the sky. It's like there's an invisible building in the sky. So anyways, Lord Carta, who is he? Lord Carta is this four-armed being, golden. Do you know? Kind of imagine like uh, just four arms, two legs, everything like a human. He has a gladiator helmet, and his skin is golden, but golden like literally he's a person that's like his skin is made of like sunlight. You know what I mean? And so pretty much in the book, there's something called the Central Sun Legion, and these are like the next level police of the galaxies in my science fiction novel, and every sun is their headquarters. So literally every sun in every solar system is their headquarters for the Central Sun Legion. Now Lord Carta is a very important figure. He's actually a royal part of the royalty of the Central Sun Legion, this giant galactic solar police force, you know. But it's not like the police we understand. They are very ascended beings, you know, very ascended beings that they karmically are policing the universal sector. So the whole now this chapter is Lord Carta's arrival, I believe I called it. And what it is I created this planet. All of this is just spontaneous in the moment, and usually my science fiction is inspired by my inner realms. There are events I see behind my eyes, and then I sculpt them into a story. So what happens is that I decided to create this planet called Cortex. I don't know why. I just like it's a term we use for the brain, but it's called Planet Cortex, and it was in the Vega star system. Do you know? And Planet Cortex, all the people in it were Cortexians, and they were these purple kind of humanoid-looking people, but all their most advanced technology had just given them laser weapons. Now what's happening is 300 of the Cortexians are living there, and there is they have like bases inside their planet, you know. But now what's happened is they're not a warrior species. Right, 300 of them are like the mass warriors of the whole species. Out of the whole species living inside the planet, 300 of them are like warriors, and they've come outside and they're waiting. And you suddenly see there's this person named Lord Carter is pretty much there. He's sitting levitating from above. What do you call it? He's levitating on top of a hill. And he has this sort of gladiator helmet. Lord Carter is a warrior kind of archetype in the book. And Lord Carter goes and he does one thing. If I remember, I wish I could read it because the events are there, but I don't know about the chronology of them. So bear with me here. Lord Carter, he has four hands. In four of his hands, if I remember correctly, was it four? Sorry guys, I can't remember, but pretty much Lord Carda, he has these spheres that he brings in his palm, and he throws these spheres into the ground. One of the spheres goes. Oh, I think I remember now. I think one hand he has a spear. And the other three hands he gets spheres. One sphere he throws, it becomes a force shield over the people. One sphere becomes gold, and the other two spheres go into the ground. Do you know? And so the next scene is Lord Carta is speaking to one of the Cortexians. I don't know what I named them. Named the character. He speaks to one of the Cortexians and he says something strange. And he says, you guys are not allowed to attack. He says, your planet is going to get invaded right now. Lord Carta tells them, your planet is going to get invaded and you guys should not attack until I am dead. And all the Cortexian soldiers with their weak laser weapons are like, what? You want us to attack after you're dead? And he shouts, Lord Carta says, yes, if you are not allowed to shoot. You're not allowed to engage until you see I'm dead. you know? And the scene happens is that suddenly the sky becomes dark and the invasion is happening. And the way there's an evil force called the Darkons in my science fiction novel. There are these kind of insectoid creatures, which are, what do you call it? They have a smog and electricity. So when they invade a planet, from the sky of the planet, there starts to be these giant smoke spirals, you know? And pretty much it's like they're filled with thousands of these giant insect kind of Darkons. The scene happens is that Lord Carter flies into the air, and literally his spear, he has this light beam spear, he takes them out. Now 4 of his hands have these light beam spears, and because they're light beams, they can go through him and nothing happens. They're not like a lightsaber. If the person accidentally hits themselves, they died. You know what I mean? Like they're light beams. Pretty much I saw light beams in his hand. And so Lord Carter is there in the sky, these giant first wave, this giant black spiral of smog and electricity, it starts coming from the earth thing. And the next scene, you see Lord Carter going into the air, and literally his hands like a machine, like as if literally endless spinning. You see these 4 light beams endlessly spinning, and these waves of these Darkons, literally the smoke cloud just makes contact with them. So you're just seeing Lord Carter, these light beams, the whole sky has become dim, and these smoke clouds, literally you're just seeing 4 light beams literally destroy smoke clouds, and all the insect like bodies just falling to the ground, right? But now the waves increase, and it becomes this next level situation. If I remember correctly, that Lord Carter, he kills so many of these invading forces to this Cortexian planet, and he suddenly gets overpowered. Suddenly you see there's so much enemies on him that literally he can't be seen. Literally the light beams can't even be seen, even if they're moving, right? And the next scene, you just see all the insects stop, and it's like Lord Carter's corpse is there. He's dead, and he just falls down slowly to the ground, from the sky, you know? Now the next scene, if I remember correctly, what happens is that Lord Carter is dead, right? And the Cortexian, the shield that was protecting the Cortexians from the other forces, suddenly goes away, and the Cortexians are like emotionally shocked how like one person could destroy so many of these Darkon attack invading forces, right? But now Lord Carter's kind of gone, and all the Cortexians are emotional, and they start fighting with a ridiculous passion, like ridiculous, like with a ridiculous hope in the honor of the event taking place. Now the Cortexians, they reach a position where these. Oh, sorry, I missed an event. I missed an event, guys. Sorry, I missed a part of the story. I think before Lord Carter dies, uh, I totally forgot. I forgot to mention this part. Remember at the beginning I said that Lord Carter threw two of the sphere balls, that like energy balls that he had made. One of them went and became the a force field, like that shield around the Cortexians, the 300 Cortexians, and the other 2 went into the ground. So this is actually, I'm going to rewind back to where Lord Carter's in the air and his body falls. When his body falls, the Cortexian shield is still there. Just hear the story like this. The Cortexian shield is there. Then from the earth, they come these giant lions. That was the whole point of the balls going in to the earth. These giant lions come where there are roars of these massive beams. These kind of like fire lions, the lions get rid of all the waves, and only a little of the Cortexians are just like a last wave is left. The lions are gone. Lord Karta is gone. The Cortexians begin their last stand. Now the Cortexians, if I remember correctly, at the end they're there, and Lord Karta's body is on the ground. And suddenly, right beside Lord Karta's body, a portal opens, and new Lord Karta comes out with 2 lions and four spears, and he gets rid of the remaining invasion. You know? And all the Cortexians are shocked. They are shocked. And there's an incredible speech I wrote where the Lord Karta, that's Lord Karta from another parallel dimension, and he says that the Lord Karta of this parallel dimension, it was his time to end. And all the people, some of the Cortexians died too, all their karma had to go from this moment. You know? And so it was a situation where the future self of Lord Karta came to justify Lord Karta's previous karma. And that was a notion of how the Central Sun Legion defended planets and then became an allegiance. They became part of the Central Sun Legion afterwards. That means the Central Sun Legion is like, think of it this way as they love the galaxy just like how we love the Earth. It would be like that. So, anyways, that was the story. That was Lord Karta's arrival. And I wrote such a speech for his future self when he comes from that portal that I can't find the file now. I don't know, maybe it's even lost in time. I don't know if I'm going to find it, but so that was the thing, where in another dimension, the meaning of this dimension echoed. So that means if we are designed to understand this world, that means all its dimensions are accessible now. But if we're designed for the world to design, if the world is designed to understand us, we never know our meaning multidimensionally. It's as if we have only access to one table rather than all the tables out there, potentially. Guys, just keep in mind I'm using these talks as also a digital notepad. So So the question brings us to looking at human design, looking at human meaning, looking at human life, that means we can say design, geometry, a geometrical dimension is the common denominator, like a Venn diagram, between human experience and human existence. Human existence is set, you know the limits. You're like, yeah, I exist like this in this way. You see it has visible limits. But human experience is invisibly limitless. Just think about the imagination. Right? So human experience is it's like, that's the thing. By treating our imagination as a realm where it has design input, it may be like, you can imagine, like, again, what's the thing? You can imagine like you can imagine like apple pie but you can't take a bite out of that apple pie. That means it is accessible to you as a design value. Your imagination has design value. It's visible, but it doesn't have tangible physical value. That's why I'm saying the inner realm, because experience is something. Something's going on. That means I find it interesting. If I was to close my eyes and there was no visible visual light. Literally, I couldn't see. If you close your eyes, you wouldn't be able to see existence, right? So you technically have access to existence as much as the experiencer can recreate it instantly, right? So the experiencer within has a sort of multidimensional design to it. The existencer without is has a sort of has also a certain design, but its design is not from our mind. That means we are like a phenomena that it's like we've sculpted, and also nature's kind of sculpted. We're like a co-creation with the world ourselves. For how many centuries are we just going to be occupied with ourselves? When will human beings be like, okay, I saw the individual realms, what about the collective development? The thing is, imagine right now, I'm telling you, this is how I know we're ready for an advanced civilization. Because if there was this next level game that human beings could play, and in this next level game, they had an opportunity to live a life where the civilization wins, and so do they. You see, that's the thing about being nice to your world. You never know who needs that niceness. There's been moments in my life where it's like, I can tell you, rudeness is dissension. Dishonoring the moment intentionally leads to incredible dissension of the will. That means your free will is as free as it behaves to itself. Did you know? That means people. I remember when I was young, I did something that I shouldn't have been doing. Do you know? That involved substances, and I remember I got caught in the act by my father, and my father just stared at me silently, and that was it. It was it, and he left. And I went into the room kind of as if like I had walked the Game of Thrones. Shame, shame, shame. I walked into my room, and I just kind of fell on my bed, just soaking in the silence of what, the implication. Then my father came to me, and later on came to me, like after some time passed, he came to me and he said, the reason I didn't say anything to you was because I didn't want to embarrass you in front of yourself. And that was the moment where I felt so embarrassed. But it was a moment where I realized that we have a sort of standard to how we are to ourselves. That means a lot of anger is sometimes what happens to the creature entering the outer realms with a deviation from their inner realms. It happens if you get dishonored a couple times in life, then then you can brush it off. But if you haven't been dishonored your whole life, you've just been honored. You're gonna suddenly, when you get dishonored, you're gonna question your honor suddenly. Do you know? But when you have nothing to lose, somebody once said this, that when you try to look at the hierarchies of the economical system and the social systems, just pretty much in the different classes, alongside the various cultural programs. You see, the poor and the rich have something in common. They both have experienced moments where they have nothing to lose. But it's the middle class that is trying to hold to the hopes of two worlds, getting torturing itself with dreams of a socialism for an animal that is still fighting for its bread. It's like what kind of ethics do we have when people are dying from hunger? Like, who can say they are such an ethical being? When there's something in the world, the species is failing? Do you know that what that means? That means literally, if you treated humanity as your body, it's literally like as if a part of the leg of the person is being frozen in the snow, and we're ignoring it, and we're like, yeah, life is good, even though like a part of our species is suffering. So it's all about advancing towards the quality, and it has to come two commands. There should be two major I feel like these are like commands of the universal sector, where one, the person has to move towards their advancement. That means you gotta allow your inner realms to provide a new you. That means you gotta be patient enough until you have a workable strategy. And when the person treats their mind as the general's tent, that means it's like if you can get super comfortable with being still and silent and letting the simple be simple, then your mind finds every moment it can identify complexity. It can notice, it becomes hyper alert to complex systems through simplicity. It's like somebody asking the question, whose responsibility is my mind? It's like, ask that from yourself, and you'll see the mind has to be responsible for itself. And the way mind becomes responsible is by, in a chaotic system where nothing makes sense, you are the senses, you are the meaning. Who knew truth was looking at itself in the mirror? What greater truth than the eyes that have opened to a realm? It's like now you have been given access to the greatest toolbox, the most unique moment in manifestation. Sometimes I think of myself as who I am based on my inner realms, and sometimes I feel I am nothing, and that gives me a privilege to breathe as a galactic being, as a universal being, as a being that is not ideologically bound to the color painted on a piece of land. When will we see the advanced communicators advancing civilization? Because without advancing if we can't find a new way to talk about the same world is not changing. It's like emergency, the alarms are being heard. This is why now more than ever we require bursts on evolution of language. Pretty much when I give these talks, I feel like I'm telling a large audience, there's an uncharted territory, there's the battlefield of the unknown, and we should have never stopped being explorers. Because imagine we were just a species hovering in air. There was no planet. We were just hovering in outer space. We'd be like, what's the point of this? We'd be like, even if there was a God, why is there nowhere to walk on? Like, why would we have feet if there's nowhere to walk on? So because there is a world, there is something to live for here, you know? And usually it's self-centered, but I'm telling you, keep yourself in the passenger seat. That means I'm telling you, just try this out and it will revolutionize your life. Try to have a moment win before the idea of self wins. That means think as if you have already won individually, so now only the collective victory remains. Then your attention goes on how to advance an event. That's what life can be. The greatest thing is it's an event. People, what are they doing now? You know, they are accumulating wealth just to experience different events. We are such an experience-based civilization, but so caught in so caged in language that we are forgetting what it means to be human in retaliation with an artificial system. Do you know that means it's no longer an outer rebellion? It is an inner rebellion to what a natural human being deserves. That is the thing. It's the time of outer rebellion is over. What outer rebellion? It's we are minds now. It's like you could only rebel outer when people were still animals. Because there is minds, there is the abstraction and the firmness of law. Law is really, believe it or not, it's very strange. Law is imagine law was spelled with two L's and you turned it around. It is like an invisible organization. It's a layer. It's a layer of meaning imposed on something that has, it's a subjective meaning. Technically, it's like, I mean, here's the thing. We can just say gravity, or we can just call it a force and not give it a name. Do you know what I mean? But the thing about law was it's like from the chaos we chose points of order and we started to build a civilization through it. You know? As I was saying yesterday, Kierkegaard saw this angst to the world that whatever we do, we could regret always. Because we have such a wild imagination, our whatever we do is not just being processed from one moment. So think of it this way: that whatever you do as a human being, it's going to be observed by endless versions of you in the future. So the type of memories you create for yourself and you create for others. Do you know? You know, it's like this is what's going on. Back in the day, think of human existence as a vehicle for the yogi. The yogi was like, all right, I'm living in this body right now. I just want to share this notion that in the yogic lens, it was like they didn't have a reason to drive the car because there wasn't sophistication. Survival was difficult. Pretty much the guy was like, why am I alive? This is tough. You know, and suddenly the mystical angle would open to them. But I would say now we have way more reason to drive the vehicle rather than to get out of it. The mystical algorithm was life is a dream, eject from your plane of existence. Literally have the pilot step out of the dualistic plane of existence into the non-dual, eject into the non-dual sky. But I will tell you now we have to pilot because it's a privilege thing. The only reason the person likes non-duality is because they think duality is the problem. But if you were an eternal being, duality would be an opportunity. It would not be a problem. Do you know that means it's like imagine you were non-dual for eons. Now, after 4 billion years, you have a unique chance to be dual in a certain way. That means even though I speak about the collective, I also understand the peak model for civilization will be diversity without separateness. What does that mean? That means we don't want to get rid of the uniqueness of people while attempting to build an advanced civilization. We want to have unique, diverse individuals, but we want these individuals to realize that it is like the win-win smarter chess move to live a life that is adding to the world. Now you can choose to be a person who, when I see construction workers, in Persian, I'll tell you, I mean, different cultures, they look down on labor jobs. But for me, those are people building the body of civilization. And those teachers in universities, they're building the mind of civilization, right? So every person's work has a nobility. Even that person who is like flipping burgers, technically they are contributing to the body of civilization. They are helping generate an event in the life of others. Do you see? There's this Russell Peters video on the airport. Just search Russell Peters airport, like on YouTube, and just I recommend people to watch that. For me, it's like it's like a effort. You might not believe it, but my view is literally a lot of life is binary. What does that mean? That means when you wake up, you can exert effort or not. And it feels it's like this. Then the effort could be molded and sculpted or directed to any level. But it's at first, it's energy. That means before I have a relationship with myself as a personality, there is the presence of energy just being with itself as a relationship. It's like the conscious zero, and then the one emerges. And after the 0 1 is witnessed, the duality emerges. We enter the dimension of 1 2. You know. We are alive, yet if we don't live for anything, then how are we alive? Man has to care for something, and because we're evolutionary creatures, let's at least try to get the whole species on the same page of it, the evolutionary future. That means the past, holy shit, we can't agree to that. Everybody's believing in their own thing. But when we look at the present, I mean, we still can't have full agreement, but we have opportunities of discourse in the present. Only we can agree to a future. So here's the issue. Instead of people on the planet fighting over disagreeing about how the past was, they should come into agreements of how the future should be. We should literally create a prototype of a better civilization and literally have this kind of like sheet petition, like sheet, and ask people in some sense, are they satisfied with the context, or does the species deserve more? That means don't think what you deserve in this life. Think what your species deserves. Then what you deserve is totally fine. Its justification is the will of the rest. You see, you have to have the work dimension separate from the dimension of actual joy. So when I work, joy is not the point. It's like you don't see the generals on battlefield being like, yeah, I'm doing this for my happiness. The general in the battlefield is like, no, the kingdom is at siege. They literally, it's not about just being street smart. It's about knowing where your attention should be and fearlessly running that way. You know? It's as simple as that. You know, that you are a performance in front of your own mind. Your body is a performance in the spotlight of the awareness of your mind. And so you are also the script writer. But you, like the stage, the setting, the person in the theater, like the other actors, you're not them. But you are the words that emerge. You are the attention that roams this unknown cosmos. So we are reverting back to a point of, I mean, it's not something I'm saying like we are, like it's something people are doing. It's just a natural thing that we first worshipped idols, then we moved to ideas. Now we are realizing you can't worship an instantaneous, non-dual instant of experience. An instantaneous experience. You can't worship it. How can you worship one moment? You can worship something if you have the definition. So the way for me I saw in regards to religious narrative, that who was I before language was what I felt it was. And I realized I was a witness, an attributeless witness of all the attributes that somehow became part of the disposal of my psyche. in this life. And everybody's like that. That means you might think that you're just experiencing life in one way, but I feel the mind is experiencing multiple lives at the same time. Because the mind is experiencing multiple lives at the same time, there is a choice to be like, should I do this or should I do that? You see, so we are becoming acquainted that the inner realms are multidimensional. They are evocational in the sense that by the whim of attention, they can shift in form. That means in your outer realms, form is your strangely like the master and you're the servant. The will of the world defines you in your outer realms. But in your inner realms, your attention is the master, and you are the master, and it's like, okay, let me say it like this. In the outer realms, your attention is a servant. In your inner realms, it is a master. This is what that means, is the inner realms are like, they're like ocean waves. Every time we breathe, it's literally like what we wrote on the sand is getting washed away. So you think, I was reading your comment, you say we're not called human doings, we're called human beings. Listen, I'm telling you, the being, you can't call it anything. We are only naming our animation in the moment. We're like a character in a movie, and as the character moves, experience becomes its next chapter. I am telling you, we are unknown. We are unknown minds living as known bodies, not questioning the nature of a world that we're in once only. That means I would say be a philosopher, not for anyone, even if you don't want to be for yourself. To be a philosopher for the future generations, so we can have their eyes be a little bit more open. Now more than ever, people have to communicate their inner realms. This hasn't been done. And if it happens in an intense way where we notice every human being in the cyberspace sphere is sharing their inner realm experience, because we don't know this. We know visible phenomena. Like psychologists, I was like, holy shit, these guys are studying rats rather than studying humans. And the issue is that it's like the study, if it's savage, should not be conducted. That means the way we know we are a human being, that means you might not understand, but you will see the religious person and you will see the scientific minded person, the evolutionary minded person, to in some sense both come to the philosopher, because it's a multi-dimensional system. And aside from philosophy, I don't know what other healthier way we have of trying to entertain the multi-dimensional and relating it to our cultural spheres, to our even inner realms, you know. Because there is a thing where I sometimes have this intensity. I mean, of course, with nature, I drop the swords, my weapons. My sword and shield. That means when I'm in nature, I am no longer a conqueror. But when it comes to actual individual living, one has to conquer the forces. That's pretty much the challenge of the day. Literally, it's like every day is a workout for a living being. You know what I mean? It's like you're trying to work out how you're alive. I want to read for you a poem I wrote in 2015 from this poetic work called Starlight Sanctuaries. And it's called Beyond Duality's Sermon. So Starlight Sanctuaries is the poetry work, and Beyond Duality's Sermon. What provides a magnanimous conception? Trust the work of your cosmic intelligence. There are no borders in familiarity. As an advocate of eternal steps into temporal passages, the truth is not the ripple, but the clear reflection of an absolute sky. When wonder ponders into one view, every attempt is a temporalness at a locality. Can you be so transcendental that both reality and the unreal have questions for you? When the world turns, it belongs to the cosmos spinning in its way. Can a hidden message reveal the unhidden? Or does your mere walk towards the hidden suggest there was never anything in hiding? What is real here is unreal there, but truth is beyond. Duality's Sermon. This other poem I'm going to read, it's from a poetry work called Glowing Madness. I wrote this in 2015. The poem's called Canvas of the Moon. We came and lived. When the sun becomes one mirror, transcendence will have already moved through your veins. You're not a machine. Respect the eternity that is here. All wars begin from one mind. All wars end from one mind. What is freedom is a choice dissolved into its choiceless source. The secrets of truth are hidden within you. So does that mean this page is empty? Yes to all senses of no. Be the absolute within all that you know. The sacred blooms within the sincere. The hand breaks to remind the driver. Be selfless, your body knows what it is. Do you? And I'll read one from Immortal Tears. This poem is called Ablaze, and it's immortal from this poetry work called Immortal Tears. How has fire burnt the lips of overdue passion? Can the flames of the center of this universe be extinguished with the blink of an eye? With a blink of the eye? You are marching in a great battle. Are you aware that you are the only command? Some questions crawl walls better than Spider-Man. All are able to realize their nature, even if masked by infinitesimal tasks. My beloved, you are infinity in creation. Who has pointed to the thorn when the rose arose from the grave? Live peacefully and in one moment be absolute bliss. Your gaze may be hidden, but soon the skies shall speak to one another in unhidden ways. Try harder than mankind, for a blaze is a beacon when the dark nights shine their own sermons. Be free, absolutely. Why else are you here? I want to thank the listeners for tuning in. There are transformations that are in the range of our free will and control, and transformations that are not. In life, there is certain moments where you require to be a participant and certain moments where you require to be a driver. Now, in those moments that you're required to be a driver, if you keep avoiding those moments, you're going to notice that it's just going to become heavier to you. That means if you fearlessly approach your life, there will literally be less fear. The more fearless you are, the less fear there is. So, anyways, guys, thanks for listening. I hope this episode was helpful. Much blessings and namaste. I'll be in the Discord for 10 minutes for those interested.